Hi, I'm Mr. Byzie, and today I'm going to be talking about the violin. I've been playing the violin for, gosh, almost 35 years, almost 40 years, somewhere in there. 35 years, I think it is. Anyway, I've been playing for a long time, and I first took it up when I was in elementary school. I am now an orchestra teacher. I teach middle school orchestra. And so we're going to be going over some basics of the violin here to begin with. First of all, we're just going to look at the instrument itself. If you have a violin in front of you, you can follow along with us. If you don't have a violin yet, a couple things to remember. Number one, probably rent. If you're trying this out for the first time, go and rent it. Don't go buy. You'll see cheap instruments out there on Amazon, on eBay, wherever else, like $100, $200 violins. You're like, oh, cool, I get a violin for really cheap. That's like buying a $100 car. It's probably not going to last long and do very well for you. So that's why I said don't buy to begin with. Go rent. You can get quality student instruments at a number of places that rent musical instruments. Utilize that. Just don't purchase instruments online. They're almost always garbage. As a teacher, I've seen a lot. I've seen it in orchestra. I've seen it in band, both. People buy very cheap instruments and they don't last them very long. I've literally had an incident where I was tuning an instrument, and you have to grab the instrument and pull pegs, and the entire scroll came off in my hand. I asked the kid, "You bought this online, didn't you?" He said, "Yes." Fortunately, the kid totally understood, knew it was a very cheap instrument. It was his secondary instrument. So anyway, enough about that. Let's talk about the violin here in general. So the violin here has several parts that we need to know about. We'll start at the top. This is the scroll. You heard me just mention it breaking off. It shouldn't do that. A good quality instrument should never have that. Now, like a student instrument is a decent quality instrument for what you're doing. But we have the scroll up here. It literally, I don't know, it kind of looks, I always think of that scroll, I guess 35 years of playing. We have the tuning pegs right here, which you can use to tune. We'll talk about that much later. Don't turn them unless you know what you're doing. Of course, the strings. This is part of the stringed instrument family. It's going to have strings. That makes sense. There are 4 strings. We have the main body of the instrument. This is the neck. The black piece on the front is the fingerboard. And then we have this wooden piece right here in the middle. This is called the bridge. This black piece on the bottom is the tail piece. Mine has a brown, yours might most likely is black. This is the chin rest, and that's a key component. Chin rest, this is where your chin goes. We'll get to that a little bit later. We have the end pin right here. Many of you, if you rented an instrument, it may have come with this big black thing that you can hook on the bottom here. It's called a shoulder rest. I have a very short neck, so I don't need a big shoulder rest. I have a sponge. And you may have a sponge too. It's literally just a piece of foam and a rubber band to just give a little extra padding for holding up the instrument. Let's see. Fine tuners down here. But to begin with, when you're starting out tuning, you're probably going to be using these to tune. If you notice on my instrument, I only have 1 fine tuner on my E string and none of the rest, because I have a pretty good quality instrument. Your student instruments generally have 4 fine tuners here, which is just fine. Did I miss anything else? Oh, the top here where the strings come up on the fingerboard, this is called the nut right here. These are called the F holes because they kind of look like an F and they're a hole. Imagine that. I think that's the basics that we need for the instrument. I want to talk about holding the instrument up. To begin with, I know a lot of elementary classes start with most violins, violas stand. I'm going to talk a lot about sitting because when you play in an orchestra, you sit. If you do chamber music, you stand. But when you play an orchestra, you're going to sit. So might as well start with that. When you're not playing, you should have the instrument on your knee like this. It shouldn't be in guitar position. This is like a rest position. When you're getting ready to play, it should be here. There's some teachers that'll have you put it here, and then they get up to the podium, and then you go here, and you go to play, and then you go here, that type of thing. And that depends on the teacher, depends on the conductor. But in general, if you have it here, 2 things happen. Number 1, it looks good. Number 2, it's nowhere near your left hand for you to idly pluck on, which I can tell you as a teacher can get annoying, and nobody wants to hear you sitting there pluck on the instrument. So when you're kind of in that rest position, attention position, you are here with your instrument on your left knee. You hold it with your left hand. And when you bring it up to playing position, best way to do this to start, you take this end pin I talked about right here, kind of think where the 45-degree angle is between the very front of the neck and the side of your neck. and you want to get it right in there, okay? And notice when I do that, my cheek goes onto the chin rest. And if you've seen professional violin players, you've seen a lot of them, they play like this. I think it's Perlman does a lot of like, like they look like they're laying on the instrument. These guys paid a lot of money and they can do what they want. You're just starting. So you want to, you put the end pin right there, like I said, the 45-degree angle, and bring your chin over. Now, when you do this, if your music's right in front of you, you can't see your music. You turn your body a little bit. Now, this shouldn't be entirely uncomfortable. If it feels like you're jerking something wrong, try it a little differently because it shouldn't feel terrible. It's going to feel a little weird to begin with if you've never done it, but it shouldn't like make you feel uncomfortable or hurt. Worse yet, should not hurt. Now, you should be able to hold the instrument up between your chin and your shoulder, thus the shoulder rest. So when you do this, you end up like this. So you can hold it up. Your left hand does not hold up the instrument. You need your left hand free to be able to play the instrument. And that's where we'll stop for now. That is how to hold the instrument. You can always go back and review this and go through, fast forward, whatever you need. That's the idea of this, is to help you learn the instrument. So thank you for joining me today, and you can always check out any of my other videos to move on with your string education.